Right, some of you may remember, most of you will probably not, because I barely remember it. It was a little series I launched over the original COVID lockdowns in 2020. It was called Fishy Thoughts. I only ever did 2 episodes. This is the 3rd. I don't know why I'm doing this one, but I've just got some footage here of 3 different dives. 3 quite different dives that I just want to go over with you, because it's interesting. Right, so this one right here was after a morning of skimboarding up north. Actually got into a couple of good squid, which squid just seemed to turn up with no rhyme or reason as far as I know. I've only ever shot half a dozen or so squid in my life. But as you can see here in this clip, this one actually got off. But this was the little school of squid that turned up. Quite nice sized squid. Especially in this area. Like I mentioned, they just turned up. And this one here, this clip here is a double shot. These 2 I kept both of them on the shaft. And took these home with me. As you can see, if you've never shot a squid before, they blast their ink everywhere like it sort of squid or octopus usually do when they're under attack. There was a couple of little crayfish hanging around, never really had a fair go at anything just because I never saw anything of size. And of course some trevally. Now there was a good couple of trevally schools hanging around in this area this day, and like they are a lot in clear water, they tend to shift around a bit and then they'll sit in holes. Those ones were on top of the weed, sort of zigzagging all over the place. And sort of, this would be a, I don't know, maybe like a 6 pound, 5 or 6 pound trevally, just a great eating size trevally. And then the next one, I actually saw these on the end of the drop before and sort of swung back around and flipped my camera back on and went back down. And as you can see, they're sitting just off this weed line here, all in a school, bunched up, quite surgy, quite swelly this day. Didn't go out around the corner of the spot I originally wanted to because of the swell and the surge, and I was tucked away sort of under cover here. And it was really good to net a couple of really tasty squid and of course some really tasty trevally like this one here. Now onto the next dive. This was a little while later. This is the second dive of the 3. These were all shot over winter in sort of varying times. I'm not quite sure of the dates. Of course I can probably put them up on screen. This was a spot I've been to a lot. Dove this a lot. This is one of my favourite spots. Super green on this day, as you can see by the footage. So I sort of knew the ground. Wasn't really hoping for much. Pretty much the first fish I saw, which is quite hard to pick up in this shot on film here. I reckon he was about a sort of 23 to 25 pound snapper right there in the middle of the screen, and he just sort of bolted off into the murk. Obviously Kinner was the go-to here. I really wanted to get a birdie firing because I'd just swam to the rock. I'd only been in the water a couple of minutes. As you can see, the Kinner going in the air here, and then I was into it. Keen as I spent a considerable amount of time on this ledge, there was just snapper everywhere.
Well, good morning everybody. It is a beautiful Saturday in September here. The conditions underwater are pretty bad, unexpectedly quite bad, quite green, but you guys, the clip is probably on film, but you may not be able to see him. I've just spooked, from a minute being in the water, a massive snapper. I reckon he's about 25 pound down here. I couldn't quite ID his position, so I didn't take the shot, but I was within range, so he didn't do a proper spook. So I'm just getting some kinner down there, and I'm going to tuck my head back over there and hopefully kick the day off pretty well.
As you can see by everywhere, I mean, like, there's one just swimming through the gap there. Quite good conditions for snapper snooping because there's a bit of surge on top and dirty water, which means there's a bit of noise, which means you can probably be a bit more sloppy, and I reckon it's easier to keep yourself hidden. If you take a good look through some of this footage here, there was snapper everywhere, although very hard to see. It was really hard to get a calculated shot off on anything because of just how dirty it was this day, and I'm not going to take a swing at sort of any snapper of any real size without absolute certainty that I'm going to get it, or I can actually ID it, make sure it's the fish I want down there, and this of course made it bloody difficult this day. And sort of adding to that uncertainty as well, because of the murk, about a 10 or 12 kilo kingfish swam through on the burley, and I didn't take a shot because I just didn't want to spook the burley for a medium-sized kingfish, and you can sort of see him, he's just swam through in the frame there. Then of course, after quite a considerable amount of time, it was time to actually take a shot on the fish here. Was prepared to ruin it for any of the other fish down there, and took this one home. And then it was on to another little spot where I found this snapper lurking on his own, took him home as well. All in all, pretty good day, really tough conditions when you've got 2 to 3 meters, probably 2 meters of viz, but nice to take a couple of snapper home. And then finally, the third dive here was a little local spot. Again, dirty conditions, we've had a lot of rain here, and you can see this little ledge here was just plagued by the bloody ankle biters and quite a large school of smaller snapper. Nothing really legal. I worked this one ledge for a bloody long time, hoping to pick up a good size snapper off it. There was that one trevally there that was a pretty good size, but I wasn't prepared to shoot just because I wasn't 100% sure on what snapper were hanging around. And John Dory were my nemesis for a couple of years of spearfishing, even though they're like the most basic fish to shoot. As you see here, he just went nose away to a rock, and I pretty much decided just to stab him with the gun without shooting to protect my shaft, and saves a shot. And of course he popped off, and I had to back it up with a proper shot anyway. So great to get a little Johnny in the bag. And then it was back to another ledge. Now I've dove this one particular ledge quite a lot, 3 or 4 times, and 3 or 4 times I've seen one big snapper there. Every time I've dove it, I'm assuming it's probably the same fish. And on this particular dive, he was there again, or he or she. And just as I went off my ledge, I caught my gun on a rock, and it wasn't the noise that spooked him. I think it was my indecision to actually drop down because of that little click.
Okay, welcome to Friday afternoon, everybody. I'm at a little local spot. Just seen me have to take a double take on a Johnny. I have just spooked a very big snapper down here. I don't really spook him, I flubbed it. My gun got hooked in a rock on my way down to shoot him, and I had that second or two of indecision as to whether to go and just take it off. So what I did, I shot a Perori to hopefully get some fish belly to bring him back, and he's actually hanging out mid-water feeding on that. So there's a few more kinner down there. With a bit of luck, I reckon he's a 20-pound fish, so with a bit of luck, we're taking home a John Dory and a 20-pound snapper.
No such luck finding him to wrap up the dive. That was 3 dives I've made through winter. I haven't been spearfishing a hell of a lot this year because I've just been super busy. That was really just a little top-up video for Fishy Thoughts. I would, of course, like to feature, as now I've moved all my content over to this here main channel, the OXS Enterprises channel from OXS TV, so a lot of the spearfishing content and things like that will be coming onto this channel. I have been for an exceptional dive, which I will be editing the footage up shortly, which will be going up. That's it for Fishy Thoughts. I'm Sam Price. I'll see you at the beach.